What drives resilience or burnout? Can AI really support mental health? And how do we build healthier work cultures and healthier lives? Whether you are managing a team or navigating life abroad, your mental resilience and well-being directly affect your overall health and peace of mind. That's why employee benefits and individual health insurance matter. When designed well, they support not just physical health, but mental well-being and overall peace of mind. Today's guest is a powerhouse of insight and intellect, Dr. Nina Powell, Senior Lecturer in Psychology and Acting Director of Undergraduate Studies at the National University of Singapore. Why is IPG talking to a psychologist? Because behind every claim, every policy, and every plan, there's a person. Because protecting people isn't just about insurance, it's about understanding what shapes their well-being. This conversation bridges science, everyday life, and human connection, helping us better understand why mental health matters and how we can support it in meaningful ways. Let's do this. Dr. Powell, thank you for being here. In a few words, can you explain what do you do and what's your research for?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, I'm a senior lecturer at the National University of Singapore, and I've been there for about 12 years. I do research on generally the gist of it is psychology of cognitive development. So basically the development of the mind. And that's my background. But I'm interested specifically in the development of moral thinking. So moral reasoning, ethical reasoning, and most recently in the last 5 years, I've started working on AI human interaction from the perspective of trying to understand the ethical considerations around AI interaction, but also the moral mind in the human versus the moral mind of the machine.
Very interesting. Thank you for your explanation, Nina. The global statistics shows that the World Health Organization in Southeast Asia region, there is approximately 27% of worldwide cases of depression and 23% of occurrences of anxiety. From your point of view as a psychologist, why you think people are not kind to themselves?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think generally speaking, there's a lot of things that go into like why there's a rise, so to speak, in mental illness or in depression, anxiety. But I think generally at the moment, maybe there's a lot of pressure that we place on ourselves in a very sort of there's a competitive mindset that we're living in abundance, maybe more so than we ever have, right? Relative to his other historical periods. And so in this period now, I think the idea is that there's this need to sort of get a competitive edge and to live not just functionally, but optimally. And I think that drives us rather to do a lot of good things, and it really motivates us, but it also puts a lot of pressure on us. So I see the lack of kindness, so to speak, as like an inability to maybe appreciate the slower moments in life, the basic existence that can be, just doesn't have to be striving for continued success, continued achievement. I think that chasing of the optimal living is really kind of made us a little dysfunctional, if I'm honest. Yeah.
In your research, you study how people judge others. Do we think that we judge ourselves too harshly?
Yeah, I think there's some truth in that. I think that we're especially with social media and the internet now, we have like a constant comparison mindset, right? Where everything is sort of portrayed in a, for better or worse, idealistic way, right? So now there's this sort of sense that, well, my colleagues, my friends, my family are living so well. How come I don't have these things?
Yeah.
How come I'm not getting the bonuses and the pay rises and the promotions that my colleagues are getting? And there's this really, it's not new, to be honest. It's just that we're so exposed to it now that it's like in our phones, in 24/7 access, right, at our fingertips to other people's lives. So we're judging ourselves because we're judging others, and there's a comparison continuously, I think.
Yeah, that's true. But I found that some people bounce back from failure, not from failure, but from like a bad state of mind easily than others. Where there's some people are resilient and others are not. I mean, for me, I struggle. I'd stay like a forever bouncing back about something. And then I see a lot of people, my husband, for example, he's like back on track so quickly.
Yeah.
Why is that? What's the difference between we are in the same household, we are having the same type of living? Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, I share with you. I'm also the like you, I think, and my husband is very easily, he's not as rattled by things. I would say that, okay, so I studied resilience for a little while, but more in the context of students. I was trying to understand, because I in addition to research, I do, educate undergraduate students and graduate students at NUS, and trying to understand student resilience. And I learned a lot about resilience, but I would have to say that the funny thing about resilience is that the one thing that seems to really matter the most for people's resilience is social support. So having a really strong social support system seems to be one of the only things that comes out of the literature on resilience as like a sure way to building a more resilient individual. So people that tend to be a little bit more, I guess, individual, like they're not as able to rely on others. They feel a little bit more, they internalize everything. That might be the person who struggles a bit more with resilience or has a harder time bouncing back. But to be honest, resilience is a nebulous concept. It's really hard to get your hands on what exactly resilience is. I would say that social support is a main thing, but the other thing is that we can't really advocate for as psychologists, because you can't make people distressed, but like going through hard times builds resilience, so you can't advocate for that. You can't say, well, we need to put people through hard times to make them resilient. But the truth is, the things that really contribute to resilience are the ability to know that when I've been through a difficult time, I came out the other end, right? And I survived it. And that knowledge we carry that with us into the next difficult time.
Let's talk about, solutions, a little bit, small solutions. What is something that you think we can do every day to cope, to protect our mental health?
Yeah, I think there's actually a lot. Like, I'll give you a small thing. It's really the simple things. Taking appreciation for and gratitude for small things, your morning coffee, taking the time to make yourself a nice coffee. If it's not coffee, it's tea. If it's not tea, it's juice, whatever it is. Like, you make your morning something you look forward to. Give yourself something where you design your routine and a routine that you both like, but is sustainable, right? So I think there's so much power in creating routine that you find meaningful. And that can also include like making sure you give yourself time to take stock of what you're grateful for. And also, finding joy in simple pleasures. I can't recommend that enough as a way to improve. Then the other thing I would say that is just really important personally is fitness. There's nothing that is going to cure, speaking personally, not academically, there's nothing that's going to cure your mental health battles like physical activity. Yeah.
Yes. In 2024, there's another study being done, and it says like 36% of workers here in Singapore, they have higher risk of having a mental health issue. Only 18, it will be in a low risk capacity. So this is very important because you need to go outside to work every day.
Yeah.
So you should be more on the low risk and in the high risk, right?
Yeah.
At least enjoying what you're doing and in a way. So you work closely with students and professionals. What are some common mental health challenges you see in academic or in office environments?
I think, to be honest, the problem starts, unfortunately, really early in, I think, not really approaching work and career from the mindset of what is going to sustain me and my need for meaning above and beyond pay, above and beyond prestige, above and beyond security. And I think I see it with my students. They're chasing, and I talk to them about this a lot. I'm very open with my students about this. A lot of the time, I think there's pressure on them to chase a particular path of career success, whatever that looks like, the golden path you sometimes hear referred to in Singapore. And the corporate job, the executive role, the 5 C's, all these things, right? And I worry that what really contributes to a decline in mental health in the workplace is actually not finding meaning in your work. So having chosen a role that is not sustaining meaning. Yes. I really feel that personally is something that is really challenging. And so I think I try to encourage my students that yes, of course you want a good salary. Of course we want the good package. We want all these things. We want our holidays. But you know what? There's nothing that's going to buffer the feeling when you're middle-aged and you are working a job where when you wake up in the morning, you don't know why you're there or you don't feel valued, right?
Yes.
So I think value and meaning these are my general points about actually mental health in general in the 21st century. Value and meaning are the things we are lacking the most right now in society, in the workplace, in the student body. I think we have to find more endeavors of meaning where we feel like we are contributing to something.
Many workplaces now talk about mental health, but the people are not believing in those measures or what they're doing within the company regarding mental health. Why do you think that is?
I think that sometimes the mental health initiatives feel a little bit disingenuous, and to be honest, there's a sense that these are the things that your company or corporation might be doing to just appear to be caring about mental health rather than actually caring about mental health. I mean, to be honest, I heard a colleague of mine put it well the other day that, if you are working in a 9-to-5 role and you have children that you need to put into school and you need to pay for their soccer and all the things that they're doing, you don't want your employer to give you a wellness day. You want them to pay you more and give you more flexibility so you can spend time with your family. These are the things that people actually want. So I think the difficulty is that some of the measures that you see from companies to address mental health are disproportionate to actually what employees want and need, which is more time with their families, more time to themselves, right? Flexibility, and to be honest, more security, right? Financial security.
Yeah, I agree. How does a company's culture affect stress and even honesty at work? Honesty. Yes.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think the culture, again, it goes back to value. If you don't feel valued in your company and you don't feel that you are heard, listened to, if you don't feel that you have agency, that's another really big contributor to mental well-being, is a sense of agency. I feel like when I go to work and I do the things I do, it actually translates into a change, or I'm being heard, I'm being listened to. And when your company culture is one of kind of silencing the employees or making employees feel as if they're just one of many, they're disposable, then there's no sense that you're valued, that you're prioritized, or that you're agentic in your career. And I think that can really...
Do you think it can be both way? Because you mentioned earlier that there are a lot of people that when they're your students, when they are looking for a path, a professional path, they are thinking in the golden, how do you mention, what do you say?
The golden path.
The golden path, and then only the salary, and they want to make money, etc. But when they reach to be in the company and they feel like they are not fulfilled, they are super stressed.
Correct. I what you said is exactly right. I think that one of the things we're doing that I can't blame the students. You cannot blame the students for this because they are basically being pushed into a very narrow path. And I think what's really sad is that we're not offering young people a wealth of options and opportunities for what career looks like. There are a lot of ways to make money. There are a lot of ways to monetize your passion, monetize your interests. And I worry that students are following this very narrow pathway. You know, it needs a degree, and then it requires an internship, and then it requires a corporate salaried position or whatever it might be. And actually, I think a lot of them don't really want to do these things. And they don't know what else to do. They don't know where else to go. How do you, I mean, one of the things we've done, to be honest, is we've really devalued in society trade roles, blue collar work, you know, the meaning that comes from doing things that are more manual labor based, or, you know, just finding creative and interesting ways to make money that give back to your community and society, but also are not, they're not the same for everyone. It's not one size fits all, right? Not everyone wants to work in a corporate environment, and not everybody wants to be a researcher. Not everybody wants to be an educator. You know, these are things that are specific for some people. So I think we just have to be mindful that, your stress will enhance and your well-being may suffer when you don't feel that you are actually aligned with the career you choose.
Yes. What's one way leaders or teams can overcome these things, can build healthier and be a better team, a better support, create a better supportive work culture?
I think there's immense value in dialogue, to be honest. You know, you mentioned earlier honesty, like open communication channels in your work environment where you are listening on the ground, you know, to the people that work for you, to the people that work with you, and you're creating a place where there is a sense that I can not complaint channels, but a place where I can go to discuss and voice concerns and ideas, and it will actually be taken seriously. So I think an open channel of dialogue and communication can really build stronger units in the workplace, and leaders should do this more. They should listen to people on the ground. I'm all for like the grassroots, you know, ground up initiative where people like union type, you know, endeavors where there's a sense that we matter and we will be heard. And that does seem to provide a lot of meaning to people at work.
Well, let's talk about a very popular topic, AI.
Yes.
Oh my God. I have so many questions, but I have so little time. So I'll try to condense. You study how humans interact with AI. Tell me more about this.
Yeah. So, okay, to put it very as simply as I can, I mean, I'm more on the human side. Okay. I'm a social scientist.
Thanks God.
Yeah. I'm not a programmer. I'm not a computer scientist. I'm very much on the social sciences side, which is the questions around what is going to change about us through our interactions with AI, through technology, our interactions with technology, reliance on technology. And I'll tell you, there's two main things I'm interested in. One is, how are we changing our understanding of what it means to be human based on how we see technology? So for example, you know, everything is smart now. Your toothbrush is smart, your home is smart, your aircon is smart, right? What does that do to our conceptualization of intelligence and what it means to be human and intelligent? Similarly, with my interest in morality, what does it mean to be moral as a human being versus a machine that's making moral-like decisions? So that's one thing I'm really interested in. And then the other thing would be related to more education. I'm curious to see how student learning and student agency is being affected by what is like essentially the reliance on AI as an answer machine.
Do you think AI and humans and tech can really support mental health, for example?
I think it can actually. Yeah. I mean, I think it's all how we use it. This is my big like bottom line is that AI is not how it advances or what it lacks is not the point. How we treat it and how we relate to it is going to change the course of culture and society. So if we use it well for mental health, I think great. Because you know what? ChatGPT is brilliant when you want to ask for advice, you want to work out a problem you're dealing with.
Yeah.
It can be an amazing soundboard.
Yeah.
It's not a replacement for a clinician. It's not a replacement for therapy, but it's a great tool for people to have access to on demand, like, Socratic back and forth dialogue. But yeah, it can also be problematic in the sense that if you are relying exclusively on AI for everything, you're automating your whole life. That is not going to lead to a person who I feel is agentic in what they do. And that is going to compromise mental health.
What worries you the most about these like smart cities and always on technology?
Exactly this. It worries me that we are going to become so automated in our everyday that while it's okay for the basic little things we might need to make decisions about, like, what to cook for dinner or however, but it's going to be so ingrained in us to be automatic and to rely on technology for simple, straightforward answers. And we will basically weaken our decision-making muscles. We will weaken our capacity for uncertainty. We will creativity. We will basically reduce ourselves to a state of autopilot, which is like an auto, we're more like the technology than we should be. We're not seeing ourselves as these amazing, exceptional human beings who have this huge capacity for reasoned thinking and all of this amazing decision-making that creates this world we live in. We're going to see ourselves as just programmable and passive to the machine learning. And, it's not going to be very, it's not going to put the human first.
If you could help design a smart city, what is the number one human value that you will be fighting for to keep it up, to protect?
That's a great question. I think I would protect the belief in human reason. The capacity for human reason is the most important value. The ability to see ourselves as incredibly gifted in our ability to manipulate the environment and create this world that we're sitting here in a podcast studio talking about AI. This is a human advancement. I want us to not ever lose sight of human exceptionalism.
All right. Please. I hope everybody's listening to this. Do you think people are happier now than before?
Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, I think people are living better lives than ever before in many senses. We're living longer, healthier lives. We have solved more problems now than we ever have in history. This is a fact. More people are educated now. More people are able to fight disease. They're able to live well into their 70s, 80s, and 90s with, decent lifestyle and cognitive function. I would say that that doesn't translate to happiness, though. We are seeming to live better lives, but I believe there is a crisis in meaning that is new. And or maybe not new, brand new, but it's relative to what's happening right now. And we are living better, but also not really living with purpose. And that can be a lot of things. It can be a collapse in religion that's led to this. It can be a collapse in just community that comes from maybe more traditional set up in society, and more reliance on technology, less social living.
Hands-on work. And then just maybe this is the reason why we are more depressed.
I think so. Yeah. We're social creatures by nature. We need people. We need community, and we're living very isolated lives.
Mm-hmm.
Even the mental health movement is becoming so isolated because it's all about your individual illness instead of your actual, like, the ways in which society might be contributing to your depression or anxiety. It's not, it's really about the individual, you know? So we're so individualistic now. We're so isolated from community and higher purpose, whether that comes from religion, whether that comes from spirituality, whatever it might be. It used to come from religion. We are now, more alone, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Even I feel guilty because I used to like to call people, and now I like to text people.
Yeah.
So do you feel this is a sign of like isolation? That
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think we are less, we raise our children more in isolation. We don't have the extended family network as much. We don't rely on it as much. We don't have traditions that we participate in as much that are more, again, communal. There's been a real breakdown and collapse of community. And I think that it's having huge consequences on our well-being.
Okay. Let's switch and talk about happy thoughts, happy moments. Like we were talking about resilient, and you have a personal story that is amazing. I witnessed it myself, and it's about your body transformation. You lost almost 30 kilos in 1 year.
Yeah.
And I would like to know what motivated you to do that change, and which is amazing when you say it. And we're not talking about Ozempic here.
No,
we're talking about true, determination to make it happen. So.
Yeah. I mean, my story is interesting, I think, because it's. I was always very fit. I was an athlete from a young age. So I have a background in like being sporty and fit, and I've always been more fit and petite. And then I went through a really challenging time in my life, and I gained a ton of weight. It was shocking, actually. Like I didn't recognize myself. People that had known me a really long time were like, worried. And it was shocking. I didn't know what was going on. I felt really out of control. And it was just a dark period for me. And so part of the story, I'm telling you that, is because it's not the case that I've always been overweight and then I just transformed. It's the case that actually most of my life I've been a fit, athletic person. And then there was this period where I just completely lost it. And I got fed up. Okay. And I changed my life. And I mean, it involved a lot of things. It involved immense hard work in terms of fitness, getting that back. But it also involved personal changes. I got divorced. I, basically started my life over again in many ways. And with that, you change your habits. And I stopped eating, out of comfort or need for comfort, emotional eating. I stopped being sedentary. I started back to kind of my old self, I think.
By the way, Ozempic is not bad.
No.
No, because I also witnessed people that really needed it. And it's a drug that is been helping a lot of people.
I've heard it's amazing, actually. It has like huge health benefits. Huge. I would take it, to be honest, if I could.
Yes. But I mean, I said that because I knew that you didn't. So yes, it was more stopping eating. You change your eating habits.
Oh, immense. Like, to be honest, okay, so I was going through a really difficult personal time. It was around COVID and before, I guess, not in a very happy marriage, not in a very good place with a lot of things with my life, and things that from my childhood were even catching up with me. Like, basically I just reached a point where I wasn't functioning at all. And I started, I think finding comfort in eating and being like, just, like immobile and really lazy, and just my ex-husband and I were very like, our lives became very, let's watch movies and eat, it was like comfort driven. It was not good. Drinking too much, things like that.
But from what mental barriers? Because I mean, you said I decided to change, but yes, People decide to change, and not normally, but fortunately, not everybody succeed on those changes.
Yeah.
What did you face? What was your how did you overcome those barriers?
To be honest, if I'm being really blunt about it, I just got fed up. I got fed up. I got to a point where I hated the way I looked. I couldn't believe myself in photos. Like it just, it's like I hated my wedding photos. I hated, it was just like, it just got, I don't know why it reached that point. I don't know what that moment was exactly, but I know that I have always had, and I'm very proud of this, a very strong self-preservation instinct, a survival instinct from growing up in a very difficult situation, having to rely on myself. So something switched. I guess I hit rock bottom, and I just at that point was like, this enough. And I just blew my life up. I absolutely said enough. It's time.
Okay. So we should get fed up more often.
Actually I do. I tell people this. People who complain about I wish I'd lose like 10, 15 pounds, or I wish I could. I'm like, when you feel fed up, you will. Like you'll get there. You're not there yet. There will come a point at which you are just absolutely done. And that is the moment I think you will change.
I'm personally very proud of you. Congratulations. What was the turning? Do you have any turning, a moment that you click and you say, what's your turning point where something just clicked and you say like this fed up moment? What was it about it? Why? I mean, what happened?
I don't know that there was, I can't really recall like a moment, but I'll say that I no longer felt like I had, I didn't feel two things. I didn't feel like a woman anymore. I didn't feel desirable. I didn't feel sensual. I didn't feel like in my feminine at all. And that really made me realize like something has to change, because I felt like I was just completely, undesirable. Right. So that was one thing. And then the other thing would be that like I was advocating a lot for my students, which I care very deeply about, to live better lives and trying to like and I meant what I said, and I had a lot of good advice. But then I was like looking at myself and thinking, I'm not walking the walk.
Yes. Yeah. I feel you. What advice would you give aside from fetting up? Because yes, that's we got that one. What advice would you give someone who feels stuck with unhealthy patterns that to get out of there, physically or emotionally also?
Yeah, I mean, I will put my psychologist hat back on, I guess, a bit and say that like we know this works. So it's typically the case that when something is not right, it's not just your eating, it's not just your physical activity or lack of, it's actually like much deeper in something in your life. So my advice actually, and you'll hear a lot of, I think good clinical psychologists talk about this, like you might have to really take stock of whether you're fulfilled in your marriage, fulfilled in your career, whether you're okay with, I don't know, where you live, like literally the place in the world that you're living, and something might require a change. So I really believe that a lot of the things that you're struggling with are more symptomatic of a deeper problem than they are the problem in and of itself. So I actually advise take stock and consider maybe that something really needs to change about your setup. It's very, very hard psychologically. It's almost impossible to break habits unless you change the environment.
Oh, wow. That's very deep. That's very hard.
Yes.
Okay. Do you, I mean, I guess you do, but what do you think about psychologists, going to the psychologist, a psychiatrist, when you feel stuck, when you feel that you cannot, do you see value in that? I hear very young kids saying psychologists is for crazy people. And this is today, 2025, people saying this. So
that's wild.
It's wild, right? So yes. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a huge advocate for mental health support in terms of therapy, counseling, seeing a clinical psychologist. I've seen all of the above. I've been on antidepressants for a period of my life. They didn't work for me. In fact, it made things a lot worse, and that does happen sometimes. So I've basically explored all these routes, and I do believe that seeing somebody for mental health is really important. Whether it's a marriage counselor, whether it's just a personal counselor, I think it's incredibly valuable. Because we need to take a deeper look at what's going on, and we need somebody to kind of highlight things about what's going on or what we're struggling with that we don't see because we're so naturally inclined to like protect ourselves.
Yes.
So I think it can be really exposing and in a good way.
But when you're not living in your home country, it also helps you because maybe you don't have somebody to talk to and to understand you. So professional advice and counseling, it will help.
Yes.
You lived in the US, in the UK, and now in Singapore. From each place, your views, what's your views on well-being and resilience?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I would say that, in the US, there's definitely a lot more focus and attention on, I suppose, therapy and psychology. It's kind of, it's our history. Psychology kind of started or was very popularized in the US. And so it maybe is a little bit more normative there to talk about feelings, express, and to think about mental health, to see a therapist. But yeah, in the UK, I would say it's a bit different. The culture is a little bit more stoic, a bit more stiff upper lip, a little bit less open to the vulnerability that it requires to be, engaged in treatment. And then Singapore is, funny enough, just a blend. I mean, it really is a blend of the two. Like there's an interesting mental health focus here, but there's also an old traditional rooted stoicism and, face-saving culture. So it's very interesting. Yeah.
What's one lesson from your research that helped you with your everyday life?
I would say that the thing that really helped me with my everyday life is probably the knowledge that, we're not designed to be in isolation. We're not designed to be relying on ourselves. And so all these attempts to address difficulties with an individual fix, relying entirely on yourself, which is something I kind of naturally do, independent, valuing independence so much, is actually not very healthy. It's a bit more pathological. So I've learned a lot about the need to rely on something bigger than yourself and social support, and not to make such a virtue out of independence.
If you could give one tip to help people think more clearly and live a little better, what will that be?
One tip to live a little better, I would say, honestly, design your life a bit. I have to say, like, not to be, not to be self-congratulatory, but I have really changed my life in a way now that I look forward to almost every aspect of my day. I look forward to my cycle to get food with my husband. I look forward to coming home to our house. I look forward to waking up in the morning and our routine and running. And I look forward to going to work. I mean, I just design your life. And I know that's not easy, and it's way easier said than done. But having not done it and having felt very stuck, I would say that there are ways in which you can try little by little to put your life together in a way that works for you so that you are really excited by your life and it's possible. Yeah.
I'm into that. Thank you so much, Nina, for your time today with us. It was very insightful. I truly grasp what you say, and I agree with many of the points of what you were saying.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure. I enjoyed chatting, and I hope that some of the things I said at least like resonate with the listeners. And I also hope that, my story can inspire people a bit. I don't know. Yeah.
Yes, definitely will be. All right, bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
With a